Hey, welcome to Captive Audience. It's
Hello, happy to be here.
Wonderful Wednesday. Hey, Don.
Good to see you. Great to see you as always.
Well, great to see you. Thanks for filling in for me last week. We had a great fair. I've got to tell you, we had a great fair. And speaking of the fair, I shared this with the audience, but I didn't get a chance to share it with you. Trump, we did a poll, a presidential straw poll
Hmm.
of the 14 candidates that have declared. President Trump got 1,108 votes. And now we let everybody vote. The kids could
Right.
vote, everybody. And amazingly, the kids are going, oh, yeah, there's Trump.
Uh,
One little kid goes, well, I don't know what it says. So his older brother was reading the names. And when he got
mhm.
to Trump, he goes, that's the one. And drops his seat in there. And DeSantis got 108.
uh-huh.
That's it.
And
You
and
know,
nobody else
that's
got anything?
And then Nikki Haley
Uh-huh.
got something like 60 or something like
Uh-huh.
that. Yeah, that was the top three. It
Well,
was
that's
the spread was huge, of course.
that's probably representative of the price. Probably pretty reflective of what the primary polling is too, the general polling.
I think so, actually. I think it probably is. Well, Lori says it's 104. It's 103 at my house right
Mhm.
now. How about you, Don?
Yeah, it's about 100. I'm guessing. In fact, I'll look it up real quick. But it
Okay.
did well for us. I think it was yesterday that was unbelievable. I think it was like 108. um, which you know that never happens on this side of the mountains, right?
Right, exactly. And Bobby says that they hit 106 today.
Mhm.
Yes, we are all having a heat wave. It is August, it's summertime, it happens. And
Mhm.
I'm just thankful it's only going to be a few days and not a month. Or like where I lived in Southern California, it's
Uh-huh.
normal to
Oh my
be up
goodness.
in the hundred and teens at
Yeah.
this time of year.
Now, Palm
I don't
Springs,
miss
if it's
that at all.
if it's under 110, you're happy.
You know what? Now, if it is like 90 or less, I'm real
Mhm.
happy
Yeah,
these
yeah.
days. Yeah.
Well, I spent a lot of time down there too, and it got to the point where weather it never really bothered me until it got over 100 because I was just kind of used to it, right?
Right.
And now, yeah, I'm not as used to it, but I'm not like people around here just want to die. It's 101 today, and people are pretty
Right.
much freaked out.
Right. And it's dry here. So I
Mhm.
don't know, here at my place, it's dry, so it doesn't feel so bad. When you add that
Mhm.
humidity to it,
Yeah.
it's gets real,
Well,
real
that's what
bad. And yeah, Lori, it is summer.
Mhm.
It's
Right.
just
Yeah,
summer.
and it's great. I mean, the thing is about here too, if you get in the shade and you're not moving, it's not so
Yeah.
bad.
Right. Right. That's
Whereas,
exactly right.
yeah,
With a
you get
little
down,
breeze.
yeah, you get down south, or I was in Philadelphia one summer. It was like 95, but it was like 90 something percent humidity, and it didn't matter where you were. It was just miserable.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. That humidity actually ratchets it up, that it's the danger to that heat because your
Hmm.
body just can't cool at all. So it's
Right.
yeah,
So
it's
another reason to be in the Northwest. Thank
yes, it
goodness for the
is.
Northwest.
Yes, it
it,
is, and
it
it's so
offsets
beautiful.
it offsets some of the fellow citizens we have to contend with.
Well, yeah, right, right.
It is what it is.
Yeah. So speaking of the weather and whatnot like that, we are going to talk a little bit tonight about this Hunga Tonga blast that happened, the eruption of Hunga Tonga, which was in the Hapai group. It sounds like I'm hiccuping, but it's called Hapai. And it erupted on January 15th.
Yeah, I'd be curious just to the folks who are watching, if you heard of it, say so in the comments. I'd be very 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 curious.
Yeah, let us know because this is, as Don was saying, we were talking before coming on, it is little talked about. And because of the vapor that it put up in the stratosphere and the cooling effect that actually goes with it. So it wasn't January of this year, it was January 15th of 2022 when that eruption happened. And it was gigantic. It's the largest ever recorded of what, especially with the satellites that we've got today and able to see all the vapor and seeing all of this happening. It says, like in this, I'm on a NASA website, and and it's about this happen. And it says, we've never seen anything like it. An atmospheric scientist at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Southern California, he led a new study examining the amount of water vapor that the Tonga volcano injected into the stratosphere, the layer of the atmosphere between about 8 and 33 miles above the Earth's surface. And in the study, his colleagues estimated that the Tonga eruption sent around 146 teragrams, and 1 teragram equals a trillion grams of water vapor into the Earth's stratosphere, equal to 10% of the water already present in that atmospheric layer, nearly 4 times the amount of water vapor that scientists estimated the 1991 Mount Pinatubo eruption in the Philippines. 4 times more than their estimates of Mount Pinatubo. This is huge.
Yeah, and for this to go literally like unheard of in the media, I only heard this from like one or two sources. And for this to be not talked about at the same time that the media is running wild with bashing us over the head about climate change, man induced climate change is what they're trying to imply. It's pretty amazing. I mean, what did I see this? I was also reading there's a magma hotspot 410 miles under the Earth's crust. Now, can you imagine what that might do to the temperatures in the ocean and any uh, vapors from the water? And I don't claim to be a scientist, but it seemed pretty obvious that that would have a lot more of an impact than the car I'm driving, for example.
Yeah, we can't compete with Mother Nature and what happens. And there is volcanic activity all over the world that's happening all the time to at some degree, not necessarily daily, but a lot of volcanic activity. And this one is abnormal because it was undersea. So putting all the vapor, it wasn't dust. It was, I mean, vapor up into our atmosphere and causing a cooling effect because of that. And they're still studying what that's going to be.
Hmm. Right, right. Yeah, we don't know.
No, and so it's on this lasting impressions, and still going to this article from NASA. It says volcanic eruptions rarely inject much water in the stratosphere. In the 18 years that NASA has been taking measurements, only 2 other eruptions, the 2008 Kasatochi event in Alaska and the 2015 Calbuco eruption in Chile, sent appreciable amounts of water vapor to such high altitudes. But those were mere blips compared to Tonga. Now, in Tonga, you were mentioning the magma layer, that's boiling around. Well, in that region of the Pi group and a little bit further, would say to the north of there, and this is in the Tonga's in the South Pacific, there is a real area that when you are sailing around there, and your compass is not accurate. Your variation, it could be off 30-40 degrees.
Hmm.
So you really need to rely on the GPS, because the GPS would stay accurate,
Hmm.
where your if you were just dead reckoning and going by a compass in a boat, you're not necessarily going to get where you thought you were going to go, because the magma, so much activity there.
Hmm.
Now, going back about, I'm going to guess 2008 or so, there are pictures posted on the internet about a sailboat that was sailing through that region, and the ocean looks like um, a sea of gravel,
Hmm.
and they are going through this. So it was an eruption before the big eruption, right? And it was putting pumice stone, which
Hmm.
is where that comes from,
Hmm.
and it floats on top of the water.
Hmm.
And these people in their sailboat, they're motoring along. The sea is dead flat calm,
Uh-huh.
and you see their wake behind them,
Uh-huh.
of the path that they cleared. Well, when they got to their destination, I don't remember where they were going. When they got to their destination, their hull, the paint, and the
Hmm.
gel coat was scraped off right around the waterline from all this pumice. And it was as far as you could see. Now,
Uh-huh.
on a deck of a boat, like on our sailboat, we could see 4 miles.
Hmm.
If you went up on the mast, of course, you could see further, but we could see 4 miles, 4 to 5 miles. And it was a huge region. And I remember seeing that online when that happened. And we were either in American Samoa or
Hmm.
maybe even Tonga at that time, but we didn't see any of that. And
Hmm.
that was interesting. So there's been a lot of activity in that region for quite a long time.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. So very interesting. And the thing is you have to go chase this stuff down because you'll never see it in the popular media because it doesn't help support the story that they're looking to sell.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's saying on this article that massive volcanic eruptions like Krakatoa and Mount Pinatubo typically cool the Earth's surface by ejecting gases, dust, and ash that reflect sunlight back into space. In contrast, the Tonga volcano didn't inject large amounts of aerosols into the stratosphere, and the huge amounts of water vapor from the eruption may have a small temporary warming effect.
Hmm.
Since vapor traps heat, the effect could dissipate when the extra water vapor cycles out of the stratosphere and would not be enough to noticeably exacerbate climate change effects. So
Hmm.
we're going to learn more as this is going on. And
Hmm.
something else about it was the fact that there were vent holes and I've done a lot of diving and snorkeling and whatnot, and I have seen fresh water coming out of vent holes. Typically, I've
Hmm.
only seen cold, and because I have touched the water, I could see it coming up, rippling like you see heat waves,
Hmm.
in looking at a hot road. You see these heat waves. You see the same thing in the water. And they have now, after this, have found vent holes that the water is coming out so hot it melts lead.
Wow. Wow.
So that's hot. So you're talking about heating up the water. Yes. Is that part of why we're having this real going to what now NOAA has said it's going to be a strong El Nino year?
Hmm.
Is this contributing? I don't know.
Right. Hmm. Yeah.
I don't know because that's around the equator is where that actually happens. And this is Tonga's about 18 degrees, if I remember correctly, thereabouts south of the equator.
Hmm.
If I remember, could be, yeah, about 18. I'm guessing it's about 18. I don't remember.
Hmm.
That's been a few years ago now. I was paying attention to that
Right.
to
Right. Yeah.
to latitude.
but but it is definitely interesting and something to look forward to hearing more about when you can hear about it.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Something else in this article, it says a different article in the Washington Post.
Hmm.
The powerful blast was bigger than any U.S. nuclear explosion,
Wow. Wow.
and tsunami waves overwhelmed shores.
Hmm.
Um, let's see.
That's off 550,000 tons of sulfur dioxide. I wonder what that would do.
Yeah, what's that going to do? That's a acid shower.
Hmm.
Sulfur dioxide. Yeah, that's kind of I think, isn't that?
Yeah.
And how does that react to then the sun? Because there's chemical reactions that happen.
Hmm.
Ash flew up into the third layer of the Earth's atmosphere, higher than any other recorded volcanic eruption.
Huh.
Enough water to fill nearly 60,000 Olympic-sized swimming pools.
Oh. Well.
And and then it envelops the globe.
Hmm.
It gets in through the jet stream. It's going to carry a certain amount and whatnot. It
Mhm.
also, the researchers found the plume created its own massive weather system and the
Mhm.
most intense lightning storm ever recorded.
Yeah. And the thing is, we know that, first of all, we're talking about just snapshots in historic time. We don't have tens of thousands of years of history that recording data on this stuff. But even within the short time period that, let's call it written human history, you see evidence of the fact that climate's changed. For example, in Charles Dickens' time, it was a lot wetter and colder in England, for example, than it is now. Um, I was reading somewhere that the Columbia River used to actually have ice in Portland, or all the way down to Portland, you get ice flows. You only see that out. You got to the Tri Cities to see that, but you used to see that actually in Portland. That hasn't happened in Portland in probably 60 years, but in the 20s and 30s, you would actually see that. So climate changes naturally, and to think that we have an influence over it, I think is a stretch.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It does change naturally, and we're not going to be able to control that. And it's like they would like people to think.
Right? Yeah.
We've done so much to help clean up the air,
Mhm.
with our automobiles and that. We really have in the United States done a lot, but other countries, frankly, don't care.
No, and that's the thing,
They,
and that's a good thing. What we've done here, I mean, the evidence of been around long enough. I remember when, like, what do you call it? The city buses would go around spewing that thick black stuff, or the school buses in the '60s. Remember those things just belching out? And then all
yeah.
of that's gone. It's way cleaner in the United States than it used to be. But to your point, if the other large countries in the world aren't following suit, and in fact they're getting worse, if you were gonna focus on something, you would focus on those. Um, if you were really about reducing pollution, but clearly,
Yes, that's exactly right. Today I was reading a story about the disparities between different nations and their goals, their climate goals. So
Mhm.
apparently the US is on about a 2030 goal. Here we've got our government going, all right, we're not going to have gas appliances any longer. We want you to have, no more fossil fuel vehicles by 2030 or 40, whatever. Well, interestingly enough, China is working towards the 2050 rule, and India is working towards the 2070 rule. So how much is that talked about?
Right, like not at all.
No.
You know,
No, not at all. And the article went on to say, in contrast, I don't know, maybe that was this morning's coffee and COVID. Now I'm thinking that could have been
yeah,
um, that. In contrast, here we are wrecking our country. We're eliminating jobs, and I say wrecking our country because we are eliminating our jobs, and we're being mandated to buy solar panels that are made in China, or the trace minerals are made there and whatnot. It's we're enriching other nations at the sacrifice of America.
yeah, or at least the leaders of other nations and our own, by the way. But
Yeah,
that's another story.
yeah. So I see Lori's mentioned something, the military ships in the ocean can make drinking water, and you must be talking about Maui, I'm going to guess. Or we can clean our air and our water. Um, yeah, yeah. We had reverse osmosis that we made on our sailboat, and we made our own water out of seawater. And my husband actually called up a congressman yesterday and said, he called up Congressman Cliff Bentz, and he says, Cliff, we've been in other countries when there's been a disaster like what happened in Lahaina, in Maui, and he says you ought to have the military go there
Hmm.
because they can make all the water that people need because their water is contaminated.
Hmm.
And they do have kitchens to feed a huge amount of people. We have medical ships. And lo and behold, today the military was there. I don't know if it's correlated. I doubt it works that fast. But, we've been like in Tonga, in fact, when a tsunami happened at Hapai, the tsunami that happened that was triggered by the earthquake in Samoa, in between American Samoa and Samoa,
Hmm.
there it had wiped out that island of Hapai.
Wow.
There was 3 villages on it, and it took
Hmm.
2 of them and destroyed them.
Wow.
And so those people, all of their water was gone. And here comes a naval ship and started making water. And all of us sailors,
Hmm.
some sailed, we collected up clothing and whatnot to sail down there and
Hmm.
deliver to the people
Hmm.
because they don't have anything like FEMA. They
Right.
are relying on other nations and people just to take care of themselves.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
So that's a shame of what is happening there, and we'll see what the end death toll is.
Hmm.
There's some crazy stories coming out. I don't know what about possible causes of
Uh,
that. I don't know. We'll have to just kind of see where that all shakes out.
yeah, I've heard nothing about that side on this one. Whether truly natural or whether man-made. These days, you always have to wonder. Um, you do, and that's too bad you do, but you do.
Yeah, you do, and that's a sad thing. In fact, I just saw a headline on a story that that someone had said that there was a police blockade stopping traffic from leaving that area during as the fire was coming down.
Mm.
you know
Hmm.
well, if you put a blockade to stop people from coming into the Lahaina, that's going to stop people from going. And I've seen the pictures of all these burned out vehicles,
Hmm.
and somebody escaping on their motorcycle by dodging in and out. They could get around the cars,
Hmm.
and things. It's awful what happened there. It
Right.
truly, truly, truly is.
Hmm. Yeah.
And now the mayor of Hawaii is going, well, we might just, the governor says, maybe we could buy the land that's been damaged.
Yeah.
That's
That's a real makes you feel real good if you're Hawaiian. The governors, rather than worried about saving lives and getting people back on their feet, worried about what kind of a deal the government can get.
right.
Um, no surprise though.
Some people have said that it is a direct energy weapon, a do. In this article from PJ Media, that is by Lincoln Brown, the cause of the devastated fires in Hawaii has been suggested to be a directed energy weapon test by the government. The activity of eco terrorists and a downed power line. Now, there was yesterday, David and I talked about the class action lawsuit that has been filed by people in Lahaina against the power company because they didn't kill the power when
Mhm.
they knew there was going to be high winds happening.
Mhm.
And I did see a video of a line that was down live and starting fires. Absolutely. So, was it I never even heard of a directed energy weapon until just a few days ago.
Mhm.
Have you ever heard of that?
I've heard of it, but I really can't say I know much about it. I just heard this new technology.
Yeah, so we don't know. The lawsuits against the power companies have begun, and one of the main, and he says in here, one of the main contributors to wildfires in that state is the non-native grass species that dry out in the warmer months. And this is the dry side of the island for anybody
Mhm.
who doesn't know.
Yeah.
Excuse me, it's the east side of the island, and it's the dry side. The west side is the I'm sorry, it's the east side is the wet side, and the west side is the dry side.
Yeah.
And for anybody who doesn't know, it's
Mhm.
where the trade winds are is where it's wetter.
Yeah. See, it never occurred to me that it even had wildfires in Hawaii. I mean, so does that sound like it happens kind of like on the West Coast?
It sounds like it happens, but I'll tell you, in talking to a friend who lives there, he said that they had been uh, talking to the government
Hmm.
there saying we need to cut fire roads up the mountain for just a time of like this happening,
Hmm.
and nothing was done. They're going, no, we don't need to do any of that, that's not, we've never had a catastrophic fire like this, so no, we don't need to do. Well, you've closed the barn doors when the cows get out, right?
Yeah. Well, that's typical of government, though. You don't fix anything until the disaster happens. Then you do it after the disaster, right? I mean, that's usually what it takes.
So Pat says if they planned rezoning and new buildings before, I suspected due in the 2017 Tubbs fire and others. Well, actually, I had read that there's some new building contracts had been signed in Lahaina, but Lahaina is a historic town, and when you have a historic town, you are not allowed to do certain things,
Ah,
So, what will happen now? I don't know. I just feel so sorry for the people of Lahaina.
yeah.
And
And the thing is, these things will come into the media, be a big splash, then they'll be gone. For example, my wife and I were talking yesterday about the disaster in Ohio. Have you heard anything about that?
about what?
Do you remember the disaster in Ohio? The train wreck, chemical explosion, and it's
Yeah. What's
like
happened with that?
gone, right? It's
Right. But the
these
people are still suffering with the consequences of that.
yeah, this government is absolutely scary. What's more scary is how scary the media is. I mean, something like that. We remember when 3 Mile Island happened. We all still remember that the media pounded it so hard. My guess is this is probably a lot worse than 3 Mile Island.
Yes.
But
So Pat says
they had a
to,
message to sell though. They wanted to sell, get rid of nuclear energy. There's nothing to sell here with this derailment, apparently.
right. I'll tell you, we're going to have to see the developments of this.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's going to be real good. And as a fellow had said that, he says, and I mentioned this yesterday. He says, our house survived, and the three of us all worked on Front Street.
Hmm.
So we have no job. And there's several thousand people. There was like 2,700 people there, I believe,
Hmm.
that are without employment, unless there are those that are working remotely. But now there's no communications, essentially. That's,
Hmm.
I would guess for right now. I don't know. And but sadly, neighborhoods of children were killed
Hmm.
because
Wow.
they were home from school.
Hmm.
And it's really sad, the devastation to a small community, to any community, large or small.
Right.
But this is a smaller community, and quite devastated there.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's pretty horrible. It's just horrible.
Yeah, where are all the train wrecks? There was a lot of them, and there's a lot of suspected things,
Yeah.
suspect things, I should say.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And we'll see if these things finally get, well, it depends. I was going to say they come out during the election, but then they won't cover the other side's um, campaign. So there's always that, right?
Yeah, yes, absolutely. Let's see. I'm looking at this about if people about this article from Lahaina. and what the Hawaii Governor Mulls buying the damaged land.
Mm-hmm.
And some are saying the land should be protected for the people who own it.
Mm-hmm.
The state's role should be to help them rebuild and get back on their feet. But Green also said he was thinking about ways the state could acquire the land, of course.
That's
Right?
just crazy. They'd be talking about that now. I mean, the bodies are barely cold, right?
Right. They're still in recovery mode.
Yeah.
So this is pretty bad to be talking like that, quite frankly. Yeah. Yeah, pretty
And I
bad.
don't think the president has gone there yet either, by the way.
No. No. Oh, well, hell, he wouldn't even make a comment on it.
Yeah, you remember all the hell they gave, was it Bush, when what was it? There was a flood in New Orleans. Um, it's just incredible. It just blows your mind. Um,
Well, it does. And so, and now Biden has said, well, if I go, it would be a distraction.
mhm.
And he's right with that. I mean, it just stops everything because of security. And just stay the heck away.
Yeah, what is
Stay
yeah,
the heck away. It's enough distraction when Obama goes there.
yeah. Any decent president would have done that instinctively, um,
Yes.
but he
And
is.
get made a comment immediately. And anytime any of the news reporters asked a question, I
Mhm,
mean, it's appalling. I was reading something today that said Biden has been on vacation the most of any president ever.
mhm,
Well,
yeah.
we know he's out to lunch all the
Well,
time, right?
he's vacant anyway. So I don't think it really makes any difference. It might even be better. I don't think he's doing it. He's being controlled by others. So
Yes, I definitely think so. I definitely think so. Um, so well, hey, that's about it for today, huh?
yeah, yeah. I can't think of anything else at the moment. There's a lot swirling about. Obviously, we know the latest with Georgia, I guess, and trying to like indict Trump. That's like getting to the point where it's not even news. Next, so
Yes, they want to indict him because he was investigating the 2020 election. Hello, that was his job,
yeah, yeah, right,
right?
yeah.
Bobby's saying, how's the book sales going?
Yeah, I have to go. In fact, I'm waiting for another report here. My first real report. So because it was, they started doing this global distribution, and I don't know what that data looks like yet. So hopefully, I'll have something for you next time, Bobby.
All right.
But yeah,
All
yeah,
right. We want to hear. We want to
we
hear
got
how
our,
it's going.
we got our fingers
And
crossed. Thank you, though.
I'll tell you, my husband is just yesterday. He goes, you know what? I like reading Don's
Yeah.
rants. Yeah,
Well, good.
yeah, very much.
I'm
I
glad to
know
hear.
I do too.
Yeah. Well, what makes you, as well as get something that's really, good and useful, it should make you laugh. Also, that's kind of the objective. So.
Yes, we need that. We need that. There's enough crazy stuff going on. We need
Yeah,
some stuff to
that
laugh at.
is for sure.
So, hey, everybody, have a good night. And let's see, 8 to 10 fires pop up around Santa Rosa. I don't know about that. So, but have to look into it. Have a good night, everybody. Share the message around, and we'll be back on Friday.